Yeah, did my mic turn on this week? Let's see. I think so. Everybody else's mic turned on too?
Hello.
What's up?
Did you guys see I edited that mess up into the VOD version of the episode last week? Nobody saw that?
Good evening to you too, 3D Blast. Welcome.
Welcome.
To greetings.
I didn't do levels before this, so I'm kind of doing that on the fly too. Whoops.
Okay.
We're on the fly tonight, everybody.
No, we're learning about podcasting one way or another. Whether it's the audience learning or whether we're learning ourselves, you know what I'm saying? Levels.
What if every time you had to hear each other, you had to put your finger on your ear like, yep.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be cool.
Yep. Okay.
And what do you think about that, Disco? Welcome to the Funny Net Show. Which one is this? Greetings from Internet U.S.A.
Hey guys, we're welcoming on to the stage today, onto our little show of shows, our dear friend and Vaporwave legend, Discoholic.
Thank you. You know, it's an honor. I took George Clinton under my wing and I whispered in his ear, 100% electronica. Do it. And he was like, "That's a dope name."
You're a hero.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. I'm Discoholic. I'm not a hero. He's doing his own thing in Chicago. But welcome, Skeleton Lipstick.
Lipstick?
Lipstick.
Dr. Lipstick, to you guys.
Dr. Lipshits. You ever heard that? Has anyone ever compared you to the doctor from the Rugrats movie?
Did they ever actually show Dr. Lipshits on the show, or they just mention him by name?
I thought he was in the movie.
Get to see him? Oh, he was in the movie?
I don't remember, actually. Now that you say that, I could not. If you told me right now he's not actually in the movie, but I swear he talked. He's like, I am Dr. Lips. Like I think he's in the movie.
Did he talk, or is this just like a Mandela effect thing where you think you know what he sounds like, and they never actually did play his voice?
He's got to be in the movie.
He's got to be in the movie.
He delivers
show his face, though, or is it more of like a Dr. Claw sort of situation in Inspector Gadget?
Now that you're throwing like, it's possible he doesn't exist, I'm like losing all credit. I have literally now.
No, that's actually extremely Vaporwave. The idea of like whether this was something I imagine, a false memory, or true nostalgia.
The most Vaporwave thing in the world.
That's actually a very Vaporwave thing.
It's the Rugrats movie.
All right.
No.
Orange cassette, right?
There's an orange cassette.
Rugrats are like the worst TV show of like the 90s.
Why?
Rugrats? Go ahead, but I have some thoughts on that too.
Who hurt you?
Well, they were done ugly
Angelica?
on purpose. Class B Chupo actually designed them to be ugly on purpose because they thought that was amusing. Did you watch? There's a documentary called The Orange Years. Which is
but
about,
I've seen
like,
the McDonald's show by him as well. He did.
Oh, yes.
Oh God.
That was a huge success. That McDonald's show. That stupid video cassette that they handed out. That was like tremendous. It actually revamped the McDonald's characters brand. Like they actually had been like down and out for a while. But they made that stupid video cassette, and like a whole new generation of kids like bought it and forced everybody to watch it all the time. My brother is like 10 years younger than me, and like he had it, and I had to watch it all the time because of that. So
before we really get into it,
talking about
before we really get into it, we have a message on climate change from our dear friend Jordan Peterson.
Right,
I'll be right back.
Greetings from Internet USA.
Wow,
I'm not expecting that.
He's got pipes.
I heard it's not real.
This episode is sponsored by Mike's Hard Lemonade Seltzer.
Disco's getting fucked up tonight.
It's just a seltzer.
Shut up.
Come on.
It's a hard seltzer.
Hard.
It's hard.
Disco's getting fucked up tonight. He's getting white girl wasted.
What?
I don't know. I think I heard that a few days ago, and I thought
White
it was
girl
lame.
wasted.
White girl wasted.
I would never get WGW, dude.
The new Christ album.
Talking about podcasting, right?
Nah, I don't have to. We can go back to the Rugrats if you want.
Yeah, let's talk about the
We can talk about
Rugrats.
Rugrats a little bit more. I actually do want to get back. Actually, I kind of want to get back to Rugrats for a minute because John had a statement about this being like the worst cartoon show.
It wasn't the worst.
It was a bad one though.
It does not hold up at all.
It doesn't, and I remember when it premiered, and it was the Nickelodeon made a big deal about our very own Nicktoons. For the first time ever, Nickelodeon is producing its own goddamn cartoons. For once, we're gonna seize power and do it ourselves. And they like premiered them all in a row, and I stayed up late to watch them. And I remember the first one was Doug, and the second one was Rugrats, and the third one was obviously Ren and Stimpy. And I do remember like Rugrats coming out being like, they can make a whole show out of this, really?
Yeah, they can make a whole show about that, and then 10 years
like,
later,
every episode's the same, right? You know?
Wait a second. I thought Ren and Stimpy came well before Rugrats.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean John Krakowski obviously had been doing a lot of like obscure, like underground animation stuff for a long time. But
Crick Falusi.
Crick Falusi? Did I say Krakowski?
Yeah.
Sorry, Crick Falusi. Obviously, you would know the correct pronunciation.
Oh,
Excellent.
dude, I love his work.
He's amazing, but he Ren and Stimpy doesn't come premieres at the same time that Doug, Rugrats, and Ren.
My
as a
God,
TV
it
show.
did.
It did.
Maybe
Those were
maybe-
the first three.
maybe
The fourth one was Rocco's Modern Life, but that doesn't come until like a year or two later.
It was definitely inspired by the whole Ren and Stimpy thing. I
For
think.
sure,
Yeah.
for sure. Because Ren and Stimpy was a big crossover
cartoons
too.
right now.
Ren and Stimpy was a big crossover. It not only it was very popular amongst older teenagers, so then MTV started broadcasting it in addition to
did.
Nickelodeon.
See, I weirdly remember it more on MTV than actually seeing it on Nickelodeon.
For sure, man. They would play it and then have Beavis and Butthead after that.
Because it was also fucked up. That show is fucking
It's
weird.
man. It's weird, man. That SpongeBob is basically like a sanitized, kid-friendly version of the art ideas that were pioneered in Ren and Stimpy. Right?
Same music too, same kind of 50s production music, and same kind of grotesque close-ups. But
exactly,
it's cleaned up.
It's cleaned up a little bit. It was like SpongeBob was a lot more marketable than Ren and Stimpy.
Mm-hmm.
No shade on SpongeBob at all. By the way,
I'll throw shade on SpongeBob. I hate that. I think that's the worst show.
That yellow fucker. Come on,
You
you
think
can
it's the
scrub up my
worst show?
balls.
I think
it was like it was fine.
I never liked that show, and that's
Really? I like
you would have
SpongeBob.
been you would have been someone
Is
who would
this-
have grown up with it as a kid, and you didn't like it.
no.
Yeah, I grew up with it as a
You
kid.
both,
You none of us
Randy and
grew up.
Disco, you guys are younger.
No,
John's
first
younger
of
too.
all,
Everyone's.
hold
we're
on,
the
hold
same
on.
age. Me and John. Disco's like 11 right now.
Oh, really? I thought that you were younger. You're the same age as John?
I think so. A year.
I'm 28.
27,
Yeah.
28?
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are all young. I think you guys are all pretty
Well,
young enough to grow up with not Ren. You're all young enough to grow up with SpongeBob when you were like
My
8 or
thing is,
9, right?
I didn't have cable until
You didn't
2009.
cable until 2009.
What
Yeah,
was
I grew up with fucking like
I didn't have
You
water until
cable?
2012.
Arthur, like PBS. I had PBS. That's what I had.
PBS
That's what I
rocked. Here's the
Yeah,
thing.
Arthur was pretty good.
Oh, Arthur was great.
Oh, Cyber Chase, that was on there too.
Oh, Cyber Chase. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what else?
Oh man, that
I
NFT
had
girl
that.
or whatever.
Did you like watch like Wishbone and stuff?
Word girl.
Oh, I was caught the very tail end of Wishbone. Like
No pun intended with that one.
no pun intended.
There's
So-
this
Okay.
show called I remember there was a time when we didn't have cable, but I was still living at home, and we would watch all those like kids shows, but they were like well written. I remember watching Arthur and like laugh, like being like, "That's funny." And same with like Word Girl and that like Rough Ruffman game show.
Oh, Rough Man
like
was great.
like the riffs were like spot on. And I was like, "What the fuck? This is good."
Why is this good?
My PBS childhood included like Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego?
Oh
TV show.
yeah, okay, I remember that. There was a animated version. That
I
came
watched
out
that as
with
well,
yeah.
and they had
That-
that came
that's
on.
what I
That was on Fox Kids.
Yeah.
I thought
And
you said anime version.
There's an anime
Yeah.
version.
I was almost.
I would love it. It actually was pretty close to anime aesthetics when you looked at that old cartoon show for Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. That is like a really like absurdly like operatic theme song for it too. If you remember like the theme song for that TV show, it's like Where is Carmen Sandiego? Like it was like crazy. Like it was like not catchy at all and like bizarre, like bizarrely operatic. I liked it though, but it was like so you couldn't sing it and there was like no melody for it. It was
Just
dramatic, like to say the least. Carmen Sandiego's interesting, right?
Now that's all coming back to me. That's awful.
Nostalgia.
Yeah, man. Carmen Sandiego's an interesting character. She's like a supervillain. Is that what she's supposed to be?
Yeah, it's kind of that was. She's the first main character that's not good. I remember
What?
blowing your mind
The
later. Where
first
you're like,
main
wait, Carmen
character that's
Sandiego.
not good.
Well, think about it. It's like she's like the mascot of something. She was very popular.
There's no other mascots that are like for bad.
But I'm thinking like
no, I know what you're saying.
yeah,
That's a good point.
you're
I'm
like,
just trying to think of another
Carmen
one.
Sandiego, but you're like, wait a second. The only other thing I can think of is like Pink Panther, which is like the name, not the name of anything. It's the name of the diamond. And the thing you're looking at is
what?
Well, that sort of thing
San Diego.
happens. Like, okay, like I'm trying to think of another thing
Kangaroo
where like,
Jack.
well, I mean, like
He's the
Zelda,
villain.
right, is about the princess. It's not
Zelda.
about Link, right?
she's the villain. Yeah.
Okay, wait.
That's
Should we talk about podcasting? Is that like, should we do that at some point?
as long as we keep
At some
podcasting,
point, I
it'll
don't
count.
know. Yeah.
I don't
See,
care.
if as long as we're in a podcast, we're good.
Oh, touche. All right.
Yeah. Basically,
That's
I wanted to
another-
do an episode on communicating and how
Okay.
how you communicate.
talk-
And I mean,
Talking to guests.
Yeah.
and yeah. Because like, okay, so like, obviously just me and you, host podcast. The other two guys in this hate me,
We're just sidekicks. We're dragged along.
and it's
Yeah.
like I don't know. I guess I'm trying to think if I've talked to anybody else who's hosted a show like that besides like
We've been on the 3D cast. Did you ever talk to anybody?
who. But I mean, I hosted that, right? I'm talking about who
Oh, yeah.
did their own. I got Indie. I guess we talked to Indie.
Indie, right?
Molo.
We didn't
Molo.
talk Molo one yet.
Yeah. Oh.
But I have talked to Molo, yes. But I'm talking about in general, like in a more like in depth, like let's talk about it. You know what I mean?
At least of the people we've had on here, I don't think
No.
I think it's just him.
Just him, just you.
And now we've got Mr. Lippy Stick over
I
here.
guess even you were saying it before we went live that you were just like, I'll just be on the show, but Isaac runs it.
Isaac runs it. So you actually might want to have Isaac on to discuss the technical stuff. But does anyone really want to know about the technical stuff, or do they want to know about like what it's like to talk to people? And, like, you know what I mean?
Who books
like,
the guests?
I
Yes,
usually
get a
ask
good
people.
mic.
Okay, see,
I
I'm
usually
that
ask
guy
people.
too.
Yeah.
The
But
guys,
we
connection.
kind of just like, and it's usually just sort of, and I don't know, like it's not exactly random the way I have the guests on.
Yeah.
Like it's usually like I am thinking, like I want to get like everybody from like Vaporwave on at some point. Like I'm like I intend to like get everybody on, and like it does like come down to like who would be interesting this week, like who might be interesting.
Yeah,
that week?
there's
Who,
sometimes
like,
where like
who
moments
did we have
happen.
last week, and who might be a better someone to compliment who we had last week for this week.
I looked at
And then-
I looked at both of our lists because I think we have a very similar amount of episodes. Funny enough,
Oh,
I think so.
Okay.
Ish.
I think
We're
this is
on
episode 19.
19. Then you have like 20
This
something,
is
right?
episode 19. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And like
I
I,
think
looked
we
at the
just did the
guests
20th
that
one.
we've had that overlap, and it's not that many. It's not as many as you'd think. I think only 5 of our guests have overlapped.
I'm kind of aware of that too, and like that's why I'm like, well, later we'll ask these people. I hope that there are people out there who I'm friends with, and I hope they understand that like you're gonna be asked eventually.
Yeah.
Like, this is like you're not like I already know about you. I want to have you on soon. It's just. You know, you can only do one at a time. Right?
That's what
the worst part is like I really enjoy talking to everybody. Everyone's so fun and inspiring and smart and has so much interesting things to say. And I just is my friend. And like I just wish I wish I could had a dimension where I could have everybody back on again right away. And you know, but we only live in one dimension, sadly. So
I did
there's like
that
not
with-
multiple versions of
with
me.
3D cast, we had like me and then at the time my friend Samir with a guest. And then we were like, well, if we like hit it off, I'd like kind of invite them back for the next episode. And not that like there's anybody I particularly didn't like, but like, you know, just you know how things work. You hit it off with people. Some you do, some you don't. Some it's more of an interview. Some you say your goodbyes. Some you end up spending 6 hours after the show recorded. And then it like snowballed to where we just had like episodes with like fucking 7-8 people on. Where I'm like, oh Christ, not actually Christ, but you know what I mean. Like
You can't talk to them all at once, you know?
Yeah.
But it's tough too
and
because like, when you
scheduling
do,
was hard too.
you know, when you do these shows, you know, everybody you're inviting on is like usually, you know, I know you talk about like what's it like to talk to these people that you don't know, but for the most part, I don't know, man. If you're like in the Vaporwave world, I mean, we're probably even if we don't talk that often, like we're friends probably, and we'll be friends when we talk, even if we've never talked before. Yeah, because like it takes a certain kind of like person to get this deep into this world. You know what I mean?
Have
And like
you-
that certain kind of person is probably part of your spiritual tribe. And even if you've never spoken to them before, when you do speak to them, it'll be like coming home. You know what I mean?
I'm trying to think like
Nah, I mean,
there's a ton of people who we still like, you know, you saying have to get on. But then I'm like, there's certain people where I'm like, have I made a connection with them to where this wouldn't be a weird ask? Or is it ever a weird ask kind of thing?
No, it is occasionally a weird ass. Like,
I'm glad you agree. I feel like I was like, I wonder if you have like, if you're going to be like, never, but like, I think it's funny that you would agree with that sentiment.
I would definitely agree with that because there are some people who you don't really like, you know, you don't want to feel like you're, you know, like, I don't know, like you're bothering them maybe, or you don't know them well enough to ask this. And you probably, but I've found that everyone's very excited to be asked. Everyone who comes on the show has a really fun time and wants to come back because at the end of the day, you know, you're coming on, you're talking to your friends in the chat, and the people in the chat are your friends too, and the people who you're talking to are your friends, and it's like, it's really nice in the same way, like going to Electronicon, like before the shows, like these things, like honestly, like think about how much fun it was to go to Electronicon to see all your friends there and to talk to them. And like, you know, then it's like, oh, fuck, when am I ever going to talk to them again? But you know, when you have these shows, you can kind of.
Yeah. I did notice that like the worlds of each of our guests, like very reflected each of us pretty funny. Like the people you've had on, even, I'm not even saying like, oh, you're bigger or whatever, but it's like, you had like Keith, you had like a Quip, you have like FM Skyline, like people that like I've seen you associate with. And like we've had on like Frank, Pad, Fiber, like people that we've associated with, and like there's obviously crossover. But I think it's funny.
Fiber on and your esteemed co-host Jonathan. And honestly, at some point, like both of you guys are going to be on sooner or later. You know,
we should just do an official. We should just collab or combine our overlays.
That would be fun.
Turn all our like windows into like TVs and have like pillars on the left and right. It's like a collab of like graphic design.
I was kind of feeling bad about not necessarily inviting Isaac, but at the beginning of this idea, I think I just mentioned like, oh, what about Skeleton this week? And then they're like, okay. And then we thought about like what we could talk about, and then it kind of snowballed and like leaned towards like the hot take stuff. Then I was like, oh, well, if we're doing an episode about podcasting, but then this was like earlier today, and I was like, maybe next time. Because again, it wasn't supposed to be like, we weren't necessarily supposed to be like, only you represent the thing.
You can only have one person on, and also like I'm
not this 5-person setup has to say about it.
Okay, but also like I mean, you only have like usually like one guest on anyway for the most part when you already have 3 co-hosts too, and also, you know, Skeleton Lipstick. I don't have to just talk about podcasts.
I didn't have to write anything down for this episode.
We can talk about Terminally Chill. We can talk about early Vaporwave days. We can talk about whatever music I'm coming up with, or the process of making music.
That was another thing because it didn't
I
have
am
to
Skeleton
be
Lipstick. There is like many things that I. This is why I don't, and this is the reason why I don't do the technical stuff for the website. Is because there's a bunch of other things that I do. I have to do.
Well, that's why, because it was like booking an online show, and just I know you've been active online and in real life, so that's kind of also where it says like podcast or help or podcasting, but it was more like I think interesting thoughts about talking to people that you either don't know very well, have to like booking people for a live show, so and so this and that.
That's a really good question because you're right, because the live show thing is a thing as well. But yeah, let's get back to that. There are definitely some people who I'm friends with that I wouldn't ask always to, I wouldn't maybe like want to bother too much to come on to like hot takes. And that's like very few people, but I mean, you know.
Can I say something funny that my friend said to me literally about a half hour to 40 minutes ago before I hopped in this call? We were talking about his life, and he's a bass player in Minneapolis. Shouts out Andy. And we were talking about just doing URL shows and, you know, how most of them are free or all these events. And then he was like, you think about the people that play these shows are the people that say yes to them. And for some reason that it's like, there are people out there who say no those are the ones sometimes that you want because they're busy enough to be able to say no. In a weird way. This is the thought I was like kind of laughing at. I was like, yeah, like
it's true.
depends.
Like I
It's
said
true.
I said no this week to something going on in March. Because between everything I'm doing right now, on top of just living and not having time, I had to say no because like it gets to the point where you just like I got a lot on my plate, and I don't really feel like doing something that's in the grand scheme of things is not going to do much for me. If I was smaller, if I was upcoming, I'd probably put more weight into it. But where I'm at right now, I don't feel like I need to say yes to everything.
You don't need to say yes to everything, even if you're smaller too. Like I think that you guys don't need to nobody needs to stress things out too much if they don't have to. But it's interesting because like there's a balance between like saying no to certain things and just because you have too much on your plate or et cetera, but like also remaining still supportive of people putting on things in the community.
I'm obviously
and, like,
not shitting on
involving
people who do anything.
Yeah,
like I'll say yes to most things until I am like overwhelmed with things I've taken on. Like during the quarantine era, right? Like I think that I said yes to almost every single one of the live streams I was asked to do, and I ended up doing a lot of them. I can't even remember how many I did. I did so many of them. And the other thing was that I made sure that each one I did was different and unique and had a different like sort of theme to them aesthetically, musically, etc. And like I put everything like if you ask Skeleton Lipstick to do something for you, he's going to put everything into it. And like that's kind of how I get responsibility most of the time to do things. Like I was allowed to like the Electronicon thing, right? The after party on the George put me in charge of that because I'm pretty sure that he knows that I'm not gonna fuck it up. I'm not gonna be worried. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do my very best. I'm gonna make sure it's fucking awesome when I do it to a high standard, and I'm not gonna make it try and make it not tacky. It'll be interesting. So I get asked to do a lot of things because I'm pretty reliable, but I'll take on as much as I can until I can't anymore, and then I have to say no. And I've learned that to set that boundary is not like not a mean thing to do, and it's not a snobby thing to do either. I'm not saying no to people because I'm trying to like increase my brand awearness and like build something out of that.
No,
I don't give a fuck about that.
I don't think anyone's really doing that.
We get overwhelmed, right?
But
like,
that's kind of why. That's kind of why I'm like most people in the scene would love to. But the people who say no are the people who are like they're working on something worth it. They're the
grinders.
Like it's
I think so. It's hard to tell.
It's in a weird way. I think
it really. The thing is, like those things really can drain you, especially if
God, they're really hard. Yeah, like, disco. Oh my God, you more than anyone else in the world.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because the thing is, like, especially with a live show online. The thing is, like, if you do a live show,
Papers here. Isaac's here. What's up, buddy? Love him.
You go to like a different city. You can play the same. You can play it in another city because you're not going to see the same people. Maybe one or two groupies are following you along the trail. But at the same time, you can play like the same stuff like in different cities. When you're playing online, I have to do something different. Debate. Your old things are already online though.
That's my debate right now. Is that I'm curious. I'm like. I don't have enough. I don't have anything to show off right now. I will, but I'm like, I don't know. I think if somebody waited like a few months, then I'd definitely be like, oh, I got stuff to want to play live.
Yeah,
on a platform where your music is more accessible, it's harder to like showcase your new things when it's already up there. Anyone can access it.
Like uploading 6 live sets on my YouTube channel, and then you go through them and. Half of them have all the same songs because I'm playing like my music. It's kind of like, you gotta pause it at some point, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're making a lot of music, it's because the thing is like as you get better, as you get sort of more a critical ear to things, you don't make quite as much as you used to. You sort of slow down because you
do slow down.
You sort of got to be more methodical about it. Think about it,
Sometimes, that's the thing is sometimes you do slow down later on into the whole process of being in this artistic world and being an artist, right? Because all of a sudden, people do start looking at what you're doing. You have made a tiny little like mark, and you are getting a little bit of attention. And sometimes it's like it's only a little bit of attention, but it's still more than the average person who's making music or art is. And then you're like, it gets harder to make your next move because you're like, I have like a little bit of attention,
Yeah.
but it certainly don't have a lot of attention, and I certainly could lose whatever I have right now if I do something that people don't like. Like if I had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of listeners and followers, fuck man, I'd feel pretty confident and I'd actually make more music. But when you're at this like sort of niche cult like world of music and you have like a following, but you don't have that hundreds and hundreds of thousands, you're like, I need to make sure that whatever I put out is like, I'm so proud of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're building up your own standards as you go, and it becomes harder to like set the bar.
And then when you're younger and you just started and you're finding your voice, like you're really like throwing it up against the wall and like, you're doing really good work, you're putting a lot of energy into it, but maybe it is your voice, maybe it isn't your voice yet, you know what I mean? And you don't have that much to lose yet, right? Because like you're not out there yet, really. You don't have anything to lose. Like, like do your very best work and throw it out there without even thinking too hard about how about it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
going back to the whole vaporwave part of that, I think it might be why you see a lot more aliases in vaporwave than you may see in other genres, because people they want that sort of freedom to just put whatever out without having to really worry about damaging their main name. And even if it comes out later that like, oh, this was your project, at that point, like, you may not even care.
Yeah,
I mean, who cares?
You say that about online music in general, where it's easy to put other aliases behind your music because it's easy to make a new account and shit.
We've all talked to Dan about like how worried he was when he put out his first original album, like after like I think I'm assuming Void. Void, and even from like his Miami Virtual to Void, and then even from Forever Nothing to I'm Not Going Anywhere. It was the same like wait, I'm doing something different under Dan Mason. Like, are people gonna be mad at me? Well, and I think he's had great luck because he's a great musician. But it's a legit worry.
Hey, it worked out for him. Doesn't work out for everybody, I can tell you that.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that for a second. So
you suck, fuck you.
Especially, we're talking about. No, I was going to talk about specifically. Now, here's the other thing too: is like in vaporwave. Like, let's say you do become one of the more popular vaporwave artists, right? You're still not that big in the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like, you're still like people are like, oh man, only the successful vaporwave artists. Like, what the fuck? Talking about, man, even the most successful vaporwave artist is like a blip in the radar of like what's going on in the big indie world right now, you know what I mean? Or what's going on, and let alone the big mainstream music world, right? It's like the most least popular or least known vaporwave artist to the highest, most well-known vaporwave artist is not that far away from each other if you like zoom out really, really far in the music world, right? Like you are not that many steps away from the most popular vaporwave artist, honestly.
I listened to an episode of Hot Takes today. I was listening to John's episode.
Yes.
And you said the exact same thing.
I know, man. I'm consistent. I know what I write. Yeah. I know I've said this. I keep trying because it's a point that makes sense, right?
Yeah,
like,
because John was talking about vaporwave gonna die and my money.
Yeah. John's consistent too. He'll say a lot of things that you've heard him say, like when he comes on both his Hot Take podcasts. And many times I've talked to John in general.
Yeah.
He's said he's made
optimistic.
These
hey,
but no, but that's
here's the thing. If I'm not,
I think that motivates
I can be
people.
Pleasantly surprised. I can be pleasantly surprised when it doesn't die.
John, continue the attitude. I think it motivates people to work really hard. In my opinion, I like it.
I think you're the first main character in vaporwave to be a villain.
Please. The first?
Yeah, the first.
There's been a couple before.
There's a whole cabal of people who've made a career off being the villains, and that's fine for them too. And they get a lot of hate. And on my opinion, I'm like, I think it's an act, and it's getting attention.
They know what they're doing.
I don't know. I've talked to many of them personally over the years, and they're not like that when I speak to them personally.
No, of course not.
You know,
I've talked to a few, and some I loathe. But anyways,
oh my,
that's a hot take.
That's a hot take. We need a noise like that when someone does a hot take. We have the fire that goes on.
You do, yeah.
We had to go like some kind of silly noise needs to play. I think.
Just keep it like that.
Okay.
That's great.
All right. Thank you.
Do you consider yourself to have open boundaries, or do you consider yourself to have walls up, like me?
Walls up. Me?
No, yeah. Do you consider yourself to be like? Are you on a scale of 1 to 10? How immediately accepting of somebody are you in the scene?
Oh, I'm pretty accepting of everybody for the most part. And
what does
I
it take for you to be like?
But
know what?
there's like a
Fuck
difference
that.
between
Hot takes is a safe space
well, there's
for
a difference
all.
between me being accepting of someone and then thinking that okay, so it's everyone is accepted, but certain people will receive different conversations occasionally based on what they want to talk about or where I think how they view making art or how I think they view doing certain things.
Let me rephrase this actually.
Some people want to discuss the inner workings of like the existential philosophies behind Vaporwave, and I'm happy to talk to them about that. And then some people just kind of want to talk about making cool tunes, and that's fine too. And I will talk to the people who just want to make cool tunes. I'm going to talk to them about making cool tunes, and the people who have like some sort of like deep ideas, not that any idea is more deep or valid than another idea, but some people want to approach this from a strange sort of like, weird, I guess like ethereal perspective when they make music. And some people want to just make cool tunes, and I will speak to them both differently.
Kind of rephrase it in a
both
way
have
where
valid
it's
things.
like,
am I getting the question wrong?
well,
maybe.
No, but like, okay, if you meet,
You're talking about me, like my life, my personal.
If you meet a new
life, and how I deal with
person,
that?
and let's say, because obviously the scene is itself a whole thing. We've all had experience with different people. Are you the kind of person where you meet someone and it's like you're okay until you prove me wrong, or are you I'm a little weary until you prove me right kind of guy? You know what I mean?
Accepting of everybody, but I'm certainly a little bit like. I am like.
Have you learned your lesson?
Hold on. Like, I do like. I don't like.
Somewhere in the middle is okay.
Somewhere in the middle, probably, because at the same time, like I am like. I'm very hard on myself, basically, and I try to like hold myself to a high standard. I try to the things that I make. I try to make sure that they are infused with my energy and my genuineness. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And my whatever like kind of artistic integrity goes into what I do. And it's true that when I meet somebody, I am looking at them to see like who they are. You know what I mean? And why they're approaching this and why they're doing this and like what they intend to do with it and what they intend to make. And if I can feel that their authentic self is going into their work, whatever that self may be, then that's fucking awesome. And I love them. And I probably have a lot to learn from them and experience and hear them. And I'll probably be very interested in what they have to say. But there are some people who maybe a little bit more vapid or vacuous in regards to like things. And it's not that I dislike them. It's just that I grow weary. Like sometimes I get involved in these discords and it's just a bunch of motherfuckers like, oh, I cursed. I know. Do we not allowed to do that on Twitch? I do it all the time.
What the
on
fuck?
Twitch. I forget what the rules are on Twitch. I'm sure I curse all the time on Hot Takes.
Nah, you're good. You're good, man.
But
don't curse.
I mean, there's like one time like I had nudity in like
I was there for that one. I saw that one live.
I didn't know, and I had like nudity in my visuals for obviously Disco, the one that you and Fiverr
wave
were
pool.
running, wave pool. And I was like, we had to put a censor screen over top of my whole performance. I didn't know boobs were so offensive.
You know what? I think it's so funny that it happened like that. I cherish that
like
moment.
Weird ones
when it
too,
happened,
like,
I was like, who else?
Weird boobs.
I was like, who else would
like,
submit
kind of
tits
like,
into their? I was like, who else? I knew it too. I was like, that's so funny.
I'm so happy that you assumed that I would be the one to have like weird nudity in my streams.
I remember watching it, I was just like,
that's like a tremendous compliment.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then it happened, and I was like, of course.
Yeah, crashed the server with inappropriate images. Hey man, what can I say? Edgelord over here.
Yeah,
one of my friends who isn't in the vapor scene at all said she really liked your set. She tuned in.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Well, that's the thing too, is when I make the stuff. You like the tits? Who doesn't? I try to make it to you want to like speak to the back of the crowd, right? You want to you're not just trying to please the people who already like you or who would like you anyway, but you want to like shout to the back of the room, right? The people who aren't even paying attention, maybe they'll turn their head for a moment when you're doing something and you're creating something interesting that, you'll grab them and pull them in, and they will maybe like your stuff a lot. And then maybe they'll like the other people that are playing as well, or the other people involved in what you're involved in. So that's the
Reeling
thing.
them in.
Reeling them in within a unique world and interesting ideas and fun, right? And playfulness and also weirdness too, and like mystery, and creativity. It's fun. It's a fun world. It's a fun little sandbox to play in, this whole world.
I love it.
It's fun, right? Disco, you know how much fun it is to play in this little world where people are like, oh, they reward creativity in the right context. They'll reward great creativity.
That's
in the
why
wrong context, they'll just kind of get stuck buying the same shit over and over again and repeating the same garbage over and over again and like at each other. See, now that's when I get weary of people, right? So you're talking about who I get weary of, and I get weary. Sometimes I'm in I don't go into the Discords very often because that's like honestly where I get into trouble and get bored, as where like I just see people like back and forth regurgitating like the same thing over and over again, buying the same thing over and over again, talking about the same controversy over and over again. I don't even know what the fuck like they're saying half the time. I don't know. It's never about art though. It's about and then they get angry and then they use the word clout all the time, and I'm like, shut the fuck up.
You see it.
What is clout? This is like the smallest little micro scene in the world. Shut up. You don't.
You'll
like,
notice with a lot of these people too. Like they'll make fun of you. Or
I haven't had
hate.
one conversation about art. All they talk about is clout. Shut up. Make something interesting. If you're not getting enough attention, maybe you're not making interesting shit. Fucking A, man. Like, stop repeating the same like imagery. Stop repeating the same techniques.
This is a message to Discord. Get your act together, or else I will kill you.
Not everybody in Discord, but like people get
everybody in Discord
on getting so upset about whatever, and it has nothing to do with like something interesting, an interesting topic.
I want to hear what Discords you're talking about because
I don't know because like I can't because I subscribe to so many.
The Hot Takes podcast Discord, that one?
I've never been in the Hot Takes
3D Blast Discord. You saw somebody posting in there?
I've never, I don't know which ones they are because I'll scroll through, I'll just click on one and just go down them all. And then like when something either is interesting or a little bit eye rolling, I might stop for a moment.
I just name search them.
I feel like what you're talking about is just inherent to like
it's just inherent in chat rooms in general. Correct.
That's why. Yeah, that's the thing. That's why my take is always I build the walls up, and you have to penetrate it for me to be like, all right, you're cool. Because in my head, I see most people as just if you can break through. If you're a real one. Battle Muppets, yeah.
I said babbling Muppets, but Battle Muppets. Battle Muppets is exactly what I'm going to call people who fight in Discord about dumb shit and use the word clout all the time. I'm going to call them Battle Muppets.
Should be a card game or a TV show.
All they care about is someone who they know already. Brr, they never try and look for new artists. Brr, oh my God, man. Stop focusing on the fact that no one's looking for you and start focusing on what your fucking point is as an artist. What's your fucking theme?
All they care about is if it's
motherfucker.
If it's the sweet sound that lured the young sailors, Rainbow Connection, Miss Piggy,
Rainbow Connection. I'll never find it.
Miss Piggy, dude, that's crazy. That's the thing. Methods of communication is important as well. But like, because a lot of times we know each other simply through text. Which is another reason my walls. Because you meet people, you talk to them, you're like, holy fuck. Luckily, you can tell most people who are like, I don't want to say take it seriously, because I don't think, we're all just having some fun most of the time. But like, you can tell the people that like, that vibe, that get it. Like, I went to Electronicon and I'm pretty sure the whole lineup, and like, nobody was like fucking weird. They were all people. I mean, I was familiar with a lot of them, but a lot of them just through text, right? Like, I didn't talk to most of them. And then they're all just, they get it. And but sometimes it's
on
the
same wavelength, the same vapor wavelength.
It's really weird sometimes talking through text with some people because it's really hard to, like, pinpoint context. It's like, one artist that I worked with, when I was talking with him, over DMs, like, I just like it felt like he he annoyed me. There's something about like how
name him. I'm just kidding.
No. but when I like got a one-on-one with him in a voice call, it was all cleared up because it all made sense at that point. It's like
Yeah, it gives context.
I got it, but things like things over text don't always work, and it's.
What's funny to me is when I first met Wizard of Loneliness for the first time, he was chatting on my stream in YouTube. So that was a long time ago.
Wow.
She was spouting absolute nonsense, and for some reason I was like, let's pull this guy into the voice chat.
Wow, really? That's a great story.
The only reason is I knew he was an artist already. He wasn't just some rando, but I was like, fuck it. I think we were playing Mario Kart online, and we were like, "Fuck it, come on in."
You responsible for bringing Wiz into the?
No, he was already making music.
He was already making music.
Yeah, I didn't pull him into the scene. I meant like in terms of like our whole group or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Because
that's
you're your friend.
I think Sterling was the one who was like in Carta '95. He was the one that was like, "Have you heard this album by Wiz?" And I was like, "I don't know who that is."
Carta.
And then I
doing on Carta's stream. He's doing a big stream. I think for spring break. I'm coming out of a streaming retirement to do a set.
They're short too, which is what. Yeah, like he doesn't want like half-hour sets. He's just like 5 minutes. Yeah,
I'm gonna do a couple of new songs.
I have to teach him. I won't even say much because it's enough stress to watch him plan it. Like we talk like every day, so like him talking about planning it, and everybody who he asked, and everyone who's sending stuff, I'm like. I organized my own URL show with like people I knew, and then he asked like 100 people he doesn't know, and I'm like,
oh my god, how many people are participating in it?
I don't know if it's 100, but it's a lot. He asked like I feel like he asked everyone to send something.
God, I could never. That sounds so hard to organize. I don't know how people do that. I don't know how they did like the Helios one that Meteor's doing. I don't know how people do these things that last forever.
It's about 60 says Indie.
They just have naturally wrinkled brains, and they just
right
fit
there.
all these.
He's done this before. Unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
I think
shout out Indie Advent for all his hard work and all the wonderful things he does. And I believe he does a lot for the Hot Takes. He does a lot for the Hot Takes podcast as well, and like archiving these things on YouTube. And wouldn't be anywhere without him. By the way, he's like a hero.
He's not a hero.
He's Indie.
Okay.
What I was gonna say.
I'm just tremendous in my admirer.
Let's just all agree to say the hero. No, I'm just kidding.
The hero. Yeah.
What was I gonna say? I was gonna say, no wonder people are doing like pre-recorded sets because like with that many artists, coordinating them to not just submit their sets by a deadline, but to be live at this very moment across different time zones.
You can do it.
No wonder people are doing pre-recorded all the time.
Yeah, you can do it, but obviously it's like usually when I have played a few. I think Bakari did a bunch. Bakari Sweat did a bunch, and it's usually like a lineup of 3 of us. Plus, they usually go themselves, so they have like their house DJs, and then they have like maybe 2 or 3 live ones. So it's not. I couldn't imagine doing like 10 live sets. That would be a headache.
Man, it doesn't matter. Like, it's on that screen. Like you can pre-record it and just send it to people. It's not like live.
Yeah.
Sometimes people want their DJs to talk to the chat and interact and maybe even take requests. But that's like a different ball game from
it's a different ball game, exactly. Yeah.
In the world of Vapor, that's very different.
I always say as long as if you're hosting an event that you're kind of advertising as some sort of live event, even if it's sets pre-recorded, as long as it's like a live element to it where it's like I did it live.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I look for personally. I know there's some variations and some people just do like, visual audio stuff. But personally, when I look for like a cool thing, I like to have like, the artists do. Oh yeah, John, sorry.
Hey, well, at that point, it's like a premiere. You know what I'm saying?
What I can't do, things like I could do stuff live. It's not going to sound good though.
I want you to stand there in front of your computer, and you should. Okay, your next live set should be you, laptop, table, projector behind you, and you just film that instead of whatever
like
the
your
projector.
Electronicon.
Yeah, exactly.
Bro,
Yeah,
no,
no,
it's
there's
the
no-
here's
there's-
that part part of it.
There's no, you can't deny it. You have to do
you
it.
have to believe.
You have to do it.
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
I'm
I
thinking.
like John's sets a lot. I like the
No, we hate
themes and
John.
aesthetics that he
Nah.
has when he with, and it's very on brand with the artistic character he has created with Christ.
Yeah, it's whatever.
Side note,
Or it's whatever, or it's just whatever.
No, I like
That's
his
it.
subsets too. I mean, like they're iconic, right? Nobody does them like
they
that.
are iconic.
They're
yes.
iconic. But like, yeah, you should, dude, that'd be crazy if you got like a SP404 and you looked like everybody else.
He just grew long hair and
The
he
best-
started
The
headbanging.
best part about
SP404.
Vaporwave live shows
I
is
mean,
they
I kinda
normalized Vaporwave live shows normalized sitting down and doing a set.
Man, that's what I want to do. I did that father show in Pittsburgh, and I just sat down. I had my laptop and just bam, boom, done.
I rearranged my room and I have my setup now. So if I just turn to my left, I can sit and mix. And I was like, I feel like when I first started DJing, it's like a sin. Like, I think I talked to someone who saw someone sitting down and mixing. They're like, "You're not supposed to do that."
There's no rule.
I know, but it's like
Standing is for fucking chumps.
standing is for people with legs.
I feel
Yeah.
like we should have on screen next to the funny girl window like a notepad widget that says days without talking about Electronicon. And it's all
It's
zero.
always zero.
Oh yeah. So, I think that maybe one of the other things we can get back to with podcasting and having guests on is like, yeah, it's not just approaching them, but when they get there, and, what to ask them, right? That's another question.
Well, you said
right?
you don't. This actually leads into a second part of something I actually have written down. Is how much do you write down, if any?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I have questions I want to ask people, but they'll just come up as the day moves forward, or as the conversation moves forward. That is to say, like, no, I don't write down any questions because I mean, everybody coming on is I'm aware of their art. I'm aware of who they are. I'm going to ask them. I ask people pretty similar questions, honestly, because I'm going to get very different answers, and I'm also going to learn a lot about the
That's
person.
true.
Isaac and I ask relatively very different types of questions. Isaac is really fun. He asks questions that are sort of like, what's your favorite? And then he'll like bring up like a subject. He might even like, if he knows where you live, he's like, well, what's your favorite taco stand around that area? Or he'll ask like, what's your favorite album? And
He
he'll
knows
like, give
where
you
I
two
live.
choices. Like, which do you like, this one or this one better? Like he'll ask some questions like that are about your tastes and things and how you respond to that. And that's fun. And I usually ask pretty open-ended questions. Like I ask almost everybody who comes on Hot Takes questions like, what's the first time you felt you were really moved by a
I
piece
did
of
notice
music?
that on the episode I listened to. There's a few questions that I was like, well, that's a good one. I think you said something like, who was your idol / mentor? And I was like, man, that's a fun question. But we don't have the answer to those.
I
are
do
yours.
like to ask questions. I like to ask those kinds of questions like that because it gives me a deeper sense of who that person is.
Exactly.
And if I know who that person is a little bit more, I understand what their music is and what it is to them and how they're communicating. So a lot of times when you make music, you're communicating yourself into the music. You're trying to speak to someone. You're trying to have you're like when you make an album, you're like, I want you to know me without me having to say it. You know what I mean? This is who I am without me having to speak words to you. I'm going to communicate my energy to you through the art, right? So I'm always interested to know, like, where did that start? Where did people get the impetus?
I think
to
that
begin
question itself,
doing this as a way to communicate who they are.
That question itself is very like giving credit, and it almost is like giving it to somebody who the word mentor is very good instead of just like who are your influences, because like there's somebody people in the scene
I
that
did
maybe
phrase it like that on purpose,
like your friend, like a lot of your friends, there's people that you consider who like help in other ways that aren't necessarily like, oh, I make music like this, but like the way they handle themselves, or if maybe they're a step ahead of you and kind of give you tips or warn you about certain things. It's a very very
important stuff, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing I asked too, is that kind of stuff too, because just the nature of like, there's people who are out there making music right now and they're not exactly sure how to navigate the world of doing it. And so you ask questions like, well, who showed you certain things? Who helped you? Why did they help you? Why did you choose them? How did they help you? How did you learn? And like, this helps people to understand, that give them a little roadmap of how to do this kind of too. Because I'm looking for roadmap. We're all looking for roadmaps. We're all trying to learn from each other. I mentioned this in the so Pat Chennington just released his video, right?
I
The
haven't
Echo
watched it
Jams.
yet, but yeah, I will.
And it's like the birth of Vaporwave Echo Jams video. And so I provided a counterpoint in that video, because I think that something that happens a lot is that, people tend to associate the idea of particularly like movements, like music movements, with like who did it first, who created it first, as like the starting point of everything. And like sonically that can be correct, but it's not necessarily true, because a movement doesn't, and I say this in the video, like a movement doesn't begin until there are like-minded artists exchanging ideas with each other, right? So like it doesn't matter. I mean, Echo Jams is extremely important sonically speaking, and it inspired a lot of people, but a lot of things inspired a lot of people in the Vaporwave scene, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't really Echo Jams that started something. It was the people who listened to Echo Jams and found each other and then started making music. And that's where a scene starts.
I mean, even
and that's where the music movement starts. And so I bring up like 18 Karat Affair all the time as like my person who I think is really the person who started Vaporwave, because when in the very early days, a lot of us were grasping around trying to communicate a different mood for music, and we were drawing on our influences, and those influences included Boards of Canada, Plunderphonics, Negative Land, James Ferraro, One O Tricks Point Never, and obviously we all watched the Memory Vague shit. We all, the prison, was it Memory Corp or Prison Corp? I can't remember what it is now, right? I think I just remember Memory Vague was the YouTube channel, Prism Corp. That was the YouTube channel with all the stuff that ended up on Echo Jams too, for the most part. So it's like, like all this shit, the chill wave movement before it, like all this shit was in our heads, and we were trying to synthesize all these concepts together to make a new mood for music. And in my opinion, like Dennis, like when he came out like 60/40 and like I think Gorgeous Fantasy and these albums, like I thought like, well, this person's the first person that really nailed it. But more important than him nailing the ideas was that was a peer that you were friends with and you could talk to, and you exchanged ideas back and forth with him. And I'm like, well, that's where it starts, really, is because like I thought he was the first person to really do a good job at synthesizing all the ideas we were all listening to and thinking about, putting it into albums, and like really creating a new mood for music. So like, you could tell me all day long that Echo Jams is the first real Vaporwave. Pad is a really great video too. He did an excellent job at researching that. And like, I remember there's another YouTuber who jumps on as well after Pad, and he talks about 18 Karat Affair too. And he says, well, 18 Karat Affair wasn't that popular, so like it doesn't really count as much as Echo Jams. I'm like, it counts more than Echo Jams, friend. Like it counts so much more, because like Dennis was in the scene. Dennis was like, oh, there's only a few artists around that were like, everybody could listen to Echo Jams, but there's no Vaporwave scene unless there's people creating a Vaporwave scene. Right. Without it, it's just Echo Jams. And it's just like another interesting point in One of Tricks Point Never's career. But it's not a scene. Vaporwave doesn't start because of Echo Jams. Vaporwave starts because the people who listen to Echo Jams and multiple other things decide to start making music and decide to find each other and start working together and creating record labels. Echo Jams is like fucking like the Stooges are to punk rock music or something like that. You know what I mean? Go ahead.
I was going to say, do you have any thoughts on people saying that Devin Hendricks, a.k.a. JPEG Mafia's 2009...
Oh, yeah, this again.
This again.
I don't even know about this. Like, I didn't even know. Like, everyone wants to... You know why they say that? Because they love JPEG Mafia, and they want JPEG Mafia to have even more credit for shit. I don't know what that was. Like, you know who I remember from the Vaporwave scene more than JPEG Mafia was, what's his name, from...
Gift Crew.
What the heck is that? What's the really...
Oh my god! I forgot.
I get it. You should be on the internet.
Who was that? Was that fucking
who?
Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, we just talked about him. Jimi Hendrix and
and Ozzy and Drix or whatever.
Yeah,
Ozzy and Drix.
Ozzy
and Drix and Drix yogurt.
Something else. Like it was like this is like I'm thinking of something like that was going on during like.
You're talking about the gift,
the hard
crew?
vapor era.
Are you talking about the Gift Crew riff? That was completely made up. I have no idea what.
No, there was like some sort of Yif vapor thing going on.
Yif vapor.
No. It was like a joke thing.
Okay, yeah.
Yif vapor. No. I can't remember what it was called. It was like this awful. It was probably like the hard vapor crew or people who hated the hard vapor crew would make it like something like hard Yif or something.
What the hell? People on the internet are so weird.
I'm sorry. We got derailed. 'Cause-
Anti
I mean,
for
I don't know, man. If you want to talk about hip hop artists that were a little bit more involved in vaporwave at the time, then honestly,
Kanye West.
I would talk about more like Dom McLennan from Brockhampton. Like he was very involved in early vaporwave scene. He was a big fan of all this stuff. He messaged me multiple times telling me, "Oh, yo, Philadelphia, the song by Skeletal Lips is dope." I know Ryan from St. Pepsi is good friends with him too. Like, if you want to talk about like a hip hop artist that was involved in vaporwave, I don't really know much about JPEG Mafia being involved,
Onra.
but definitely Don McLennan was very involved in all this stuff, and still Facebook friends with him today because of that.
John Lennon was involved in this.
John Lennon?
Don
John Lemon?
McLennan, Don McLennan from Brockhampton.
You know, I was thinking on your previous point about like how you approach topics, and like your questions are mostly the same from like video to video. It really kind of, you know, different responses from different guests to that question.
Should we
really
start doing that?
No. What I'm trying to say is that's a very good way to get personal with your guests. You know, kind of amplify their voice, and kind of like how we differently approach that differently at Funny Net, where we kind of amplify the world our guest is from, and have our guest be kind of like the ambassador of that world. Like,
It's
for example,
less an interview, and we'll continue.
It's less an interview and more like an exploration of a specific world that the guest happens to be.
Yeah.
Kind of,
When you
I
guide
always
us.
consider Hot Takes to be an interview show so much as it's just a discussion panel.
exactly.
Yeah.
And the chat is very much involved. You know,
And like
all
sometimes,
these.
obviously, we'll have a guest on, and it does get interviewee in a way sometimes, but then sometimes it doesn't.
Sure.
Sometimes it's all about. What?
Sometimes the guests will ask you questions back. Like I'm sure, like I
mean, we had
Indy
Indy on.
questions. I'll do more.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
he kept the topic a surprise. He wanted to
Indy
spring that
hosted
on us.
our podcast for an episode.
Nice.
I mean, who else? I mean, he's hosted so
No,
many. It's about time he hosted ours.
Yes.
Yar.
Yar.
So we should talk about who's the sexiest president is again. Get Skeleton Lipsticks pouring on that.
Kennedy, probably.
Barack Obama.
I suppose so. Yeah.
Hey, you know, when I think of vaporwave, I think Barack Obama.
Speaking of hip hop people who were into vaporwave, yep.
Yep. Joe Biden.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Biden. Yeah, no, I don't think he's hip to the vapor. You know,
Why? He's slow. He's halfway there. Just needs a little bit of reverb, and the boys got it.
Well,
A little bit of reverb to that Biden, and you got yourself a classic, an album. Yeah.
Yeah. The White Hypermall.
Is there like a that's not, I don't know if that's possible, like a physical Paul stretch, like a rack effect. I don't know if that's possible.
I'm just imagining like a cartoon George Biden, Joe Biden being like stretched like Laffy Taffy, like one of those like old little what were those like rubber doll things, like the
Armstrong.
like
Armstrong,
just like that with like Joe Biden.
Oh boy!
Yeah, John's having a field day with that one.
Yeah.
What if he was like stretched and reverb? Paul stretched. Who's Paul?
My
uncle.
Okay. So, getting back to podcasting, oftentimes when we podcast, you know, you set up the stream, you get the guest on. You start talking to the guest, and then I forgot the point I was making.
Then you forget the point you were making.
You get the
Have
guest on
you-
the podcast.
and then you talk.
Start
Have you
chattering.
had somebody who was unfamiliar with what you were doing? Like actually, because we haven't, I don't think.
Who didn't know what we were? Who didn't know like?
I feel like everyone we've had on so far gets that we're gonna be really stupid for a long time and barely make content. We're gonna talk about Rugrats for way too long, stuff like that. All right,
I get back
said,
to Rugrats at some point.
Yeah, like you said when you joined, you were like, I know how this works. I'm familiar. I've blah blah blah. I've seen the show, but like, has anyone ever been like, oh, I thought we were supposed to be like I don't know. I thought this was like an interview, or what is this? Or
Oh,
No,
we've
but I
we've
think
kind of
sometimes
had
people have
that
tuned
moment.
in before. So sometimes people have tuned in before and like not quite understood that this wasn't going to be an interview. Like, so like I think some like when we had Keith on, like there were some people who tuned in and were like, "Ugh, when are they going to ask Keith questions? When are
that's
they going
true.
to do more things?
We've
Like,
had
fuck you. There was some
When's he
like
gonna
really
play live? When's his teacher?
there's a famous like artist who like tuned in because he expected that. I'm not allowed to say his name anymore because I got yelled at last time I did that on the Hot Takes podcast. Because I don't give a fuck. I'd say his name right now if I wouldn't get other
It's
people in
not hot
trouble
takes,
over
I
it.
will say.
But
So you
but
can.
like, and I actually opened that show with "fuck you" and I said his name and I'm like, you know, like, you want to learn more about Keith Rankin? You got two options. Look at the dozens of interviews that are already existing with him on various sources, or start your own fucking podcast and run it however you like, little boy.
We were
Anyway.
we were when we had Dan on.
Fuck you. Like, I'm a nice person. I'm a very nice person, but I'm not a fucking like I'm not a pushover either, and I do not give fucks if you go my way.
When we had Dan Mason on, some of his super fans came, I think, just because they love Dan. And like I said, it's not necessarily an interview. We were talking. I don't even remember what our topic was. But we were talking very broadly about something. Dan's our friend. I don't need to interview Dan again. Like,
Yeah.
And then this person in chat was just kind of like, what does he think of this? What is this song? What about this? What does he think of this? And I was like, totally unrelated. Like, we're talking about Rugrats. I don't want to know what he...
Don't interrupt our Rugrats.
Typical funny net episode.
Yeah.
We're chatting about Rugrats. You know, we're
As you do.
deep into season 3 lore, and this motherfucker wants to ask Dan what he thinks of the color purple. Fuck you. Get
Yeah,
out
like-
of the chat, banned.
Like, if right now somebody was like, what new music is Skeleton Lipstick working on? It's like, okay, there's a time for that.
There's no time for that.
There's a time for that. Maybe that time's right now. What are you working on?
Okay. But
Okay, all right. Yeah, we can chat
all of a sudden, we
chat
have
about that.
plugs at the end of the show, John.
Sure. I mean, like, first of all, like, I have this like ambient, like melodic ambient emeralds-ish side project called Polymath Vampire that I just finished up. It's like basically I have a bunch of synthesizers that I would program melodies into. I'd run them into each other, run out these sequences into each other and combine them and sort of dance them around each other in a very, very interesting fashion. And I finished that. And after I was pleased with that, I reached out to a few artists in the Vaporwave scene who I knew played guitar, and I asked them to add some drone-ish textures over top certain songs. So like Winter Quilt did some work for it, Donor Lens did some work for it, Golden Living Room did some work for it, Lee from Hawaii 94, Four, thank you. Oh God, I've known him for 11 years. Anyway, Hawaii 94 and surfing, right? And surfing as well. He had some guitar over top of it, and Tower of the Sun did as well for me. And that's and then I sent Angel Fire Tools mastered it for me. So that's actually finished now, and I'm just working with this phenomenal artist Vaporwave Susie to develop the cover art for it.
Vaporwave
And so
Susie.
that's done. Susie, it's Vaporwave _SV ECY.
Yes.
Very talented artist.
So we're releasing that.
What's that?
Where are you releasing? So
Where? So what would you say?
Are you self-releasing it, or are you putting it on a work with
I
a
don't.
label?
I don't know. I have to shop it around
Oh,
next.
John,
I guess.
nice smile on
John,
your face.
maybe if you're interested. If I would be honored. I've been turned down by Business Casual before though, so I'll try again.
He's
I
a
guess.
tough cookie to crack.
When? Oh well, actually, I could probably.
It was a while ago. It was right when I first decided to start re-entering the vapor world, and then I did sent some Skeleton Lipstick material to you, and I was like, "I'm Skeleton Lipstick. I've been around for a while. Do you want us to release this?"
You were like,
I
That's
think
so great.
I remember vividly getting your demo in, because I remember it's like, who the fuck is this guy saying he's been here? I've been here, what, how long? I don't remember this skeleton guy.
yeah, I remember
Yeah.
skeleton, but not the lipstick part.
I have one inside me, but I
I
don't remember wearing
have
lipstick.
been though, sir.
Well,
you
you-
can't keep track of everything in Vaporwave. That's the
True.
thing, right?
But
I
like,
did take
you
hiatus.
took a hiatus, and you know what?
2014, like after the first wave of Vaporwave, I did kind of like
That's
I released like an EP or two, but I didn't really like. I did take a hiatus up until I decided to start doing Terminally Chill, the Vaporwave dance party.
I have a great
you know?
question you just
The thing is
reminded
that,
me
like,
of.
you have to understand that like I had just like kind of like the reason I had to take the hiatus was like like honestly, like the residency was getting to be too much, and B, like I was going through a divorce, so I had to, because I got married way too young.
Yeah,
Like, don't do that, FYI.
Yeah.
Try not
Don't
to.
get married young. Try not to do that. So I had to go through like a divorce, and I had to get, finish my residency, and then like my post-divorce life was like, turbulent to say the least.
My pre-divorce life is sick right now.
November
because like
19th, 2018 is when you sent in that demo.
So I got to get back into Vaporwave again, like 2017, 2000, around that time, right? I started coming back into it, and then like I pulled out some of these these tracks that I had been working on a long time ago, and it was a lazy move on my part, honestly. Like I thought, like, well, this is pretty good. Maybe John. I was a big fan of Business Casual. It was honestly when I started doing the Vaporwave dance party again. Man, that was the first place I went to go back and look for new music at, was obviously Business Casual. Because it's the best curated record label out there. Can't say enough about it.
So this is something. So,
John hates these compliments, so I'll stop now.
it's way easier to insult him.
It's way easier.
Yeah, Business Casual, more like
Business amateur.
You look stupid.
This is something me and John have definitely talked about. Oh boy.
But I do have new Skeleton Lipstick music that I have been working on, and it is like fucking fire as fuck. It's very good. But that may not be until the other reason I even came back in a lot too was because My Pet Flamingo had reached out to me to re-release the Lipstick Elite work. You know what I mean? They wanted to release that on vinyl, so they came out to me. And then also like George like encouraged me to sort of start doing this stuff again. And I think honestly the real tipping point was when I was talking to Surfing, and I was telling Surfing about how I've been doing the Vaporwave dance party. I was talking to Ant from Penny from Surfing about how we're doing the Vaporwave dance party and this and that. And he's like, "Oh, and when are you gonna make new music?" And I'm like, "Well, I got the dance party, I've got this, I got that." He's like, "But when are you making new music?" And I'm like, I don't know. I guess I gotta open up the old DAWs again, get the synths out.
Something you mentioned kind of.
But it was great. Like I came back in, and like I always make it a point to learn new techniques, to do new things, to listen to more, to actively listen to more music, so as to learn how to improve and to do more and to incorporate, but not to lose what I've always done and to incorporate.
More people should know that that music creation, it involves a lot of music listening.
It's the number one rule.
So much fucking music.
People always ask, "How do I make this?" And I go, "You should never have to ask. If you have to ask how do I make this, you need to do more listening."
I think it's like,
and if you don't physically know how to run the program, then you're so many steps behind when you should be asked. Like you should learn
John, I'm going to send you the Polymath Vampire stuff along with the cover art, which is pretty phenomenal. And I will not hold it against you if you say it's not really Business Casual's things, but I will say it's pretty good, and it's got a lot of names attached to it, so it'll sell at the very least. It's very good music, actually. It's pretty awesome.
I will definitely, because I have your demo up. From when
is it still out there? Did I not delete that yet?
No, I have it. The demo is actually deleted, but I'm kind of intrigued now. What did you send me? Because I'll quickly be a memory.
Put it on
the thing, but the playlist is gone.
The playlist is gone. I think some of the songs on there probably still made the cut for the next album I'm working on, but I think only like 2 or 3, honestly. They're pretty good. Pretty good music, I think so. But like it could have slapped harder, and it will now.
Yeah, just
what?
Particularly like I really am very pleased with my first 2 records, the one I made with Lux and my first album, Glows and Melts. I'm very pleased with those. I think I'm very happy. Like when I write music, I try to write it in a way that it exists outside a timeline so that it sounds like it could come from any era and I'll still like it. I write for me too. I'm like, I try to write music that I'm like, I'll still like this 10 years later. You know what I mean?
Feels like life. That's a good song. Hey, I'm not supposed to. I'm not supposed to say this late April, early May.
For what?
You got something stuck in your throat there?
Yeah, I had something stuck in my throat. I'm going to drink some water.
For what?
Yeah,
music?
good.
Do you do that?
So, but anyway, the next Skeleton Lipstick album, I will have that ready by summer because, I got some big shows coming up in the summer, and I'd like to have it done by then. But yeah,
This is very exciting.
Other questions about music or production, I guess?
I was gonna ask more on the kind of the topic at hand. I mean, you mentioned in passing about just people in general, and something me and John have talked about. I would say debated, but it wasn't. It was more of a discussion. But you said after the first wave of vaporwave, and I was wondering if you have your own timeline of what you consider the waves of or trends, because I definitely think okay, I think like this guy to this guy was kind of first wave. This guy, like what do I consider myself, like coming in from 2014 15, and then like current, like how many different
14 and
eras.
15 I think is like the second era, right?
Feels like it.
Yeah, that's what I was
Feels
thinking.
like life.
That's
Yeah.
like
Second
before, starting from 2014 is like the second era. I mean, I'm from
I
before
would
it
call
had
it
a
more like the
name.
third.
Depends on if yeah.
Here's the thing. I know that when I started, it didn't have a name, but I knew all the people, and we were all friends in the internet community, and we all kept getting put, and we all kept posting in the same areas, and that's how we became friends. And I know that Mr. Nonsense released a. Mr. Nonsense was a blogger. He had a really popular Tumblr and a really popular Facebook group called Chillwave Glowfi Hypnagogic Pop, and we would send our music to him, and he would post our YouTube videos, because back then you used to make, in addition to making music, you would like, we all watch those, One O Tricks Point Never stuff where you would take stuff and clip out together old commercials to make your own aesthetic. We were all doing that, putting our music to it, because if it was maybe more likely a blog might post your YouTube, because blogs were big back then. So maybe a blog would be more interested in posting a music video to go along with your song that might sell it a little bit more than just the song itself. So we all did that. And I just remember, Mr. Nonsense, aka Matteo Califeri, I think he was Italian. He was a big fan of us, of all this kind of music that was being made. And I think he figured out the people that were sort of doing similar things and that had similar influences, and would just post them all the time. And he's done a few interviews where he was talking about these people, and he was like saying, it's like a different thing. It's synthesizing a lot of different ideas together. It's a lifestyle kind of music. I don't exactly know how to describe it any more than that, but he was describing Vaporwave before it had a name. And he was posting stuff like myself and Mesh and Otto and, Topaz Gang and like a bunch of people. If you want to actually get an idea of like the early Vaporwave world, just download the Mr. Nonsense Cop Symposium Volume 1 that he put together. And that's got like, you'll recognize so many different names on it, like everybody. Like Ryan's on there, like all kinds of people are on there. And the people who you don't know anymore that are no longer, that are on that comp that you don't know any longer, those are the people who kind of like resisted being called Vaporwave. And like, we're like, oh no, we're going to be like indie dance on it.
Yeah. So, second part to this, this was.
I'm gonna post the link for that Mr. Nonsense comp in the thing right now. But like, I'm just looking at it right now, and like Hawaii '94, Skeleton Lipstick, Mirror Kisses, aka George. Who else is on here?
Bass Hunter,
Walkie Talkie, who's actually Andrew Walker.
Walkie
from,
Slush.
Who Andrew Walker did the cover art for this as well, and Andrew Walker, of course, from Stratford Court, right, runs that.
Yep.
Stratford Court is a big early player. Vector Graphics is on here. Luxury Elite is on here. Macross is on here. Tua is on here. VHS Logos is on here. Wasted Night is on here. Dinosaurus Rex, who was of course the person who of course ran the Future of Funk label itself.
He coined Future Funk. You would say,
right. So this is like, you want to get a good idea. Like, I'm on here, right? If you want to get a good idea of like the early, and if you don't know the artists on here, it's because they didn't like I remember I was friends with these people too, like Box of Wolves, and like they were all like, they were like, the people who didn't lean into something new kind of didn't last.
God, so here's a question too that plays
10 years
this perfectly. Do you think it is more important to know about the past or contemporary peers?
I think it would be great for people to know more about contemporary peers, because I think we need some new stuff out there.
There certainly wasn't a right answer. I thought about that today, and I was like,
I'm a big fan of not holding too tightly or dearly to everything. You know what I mean? I've been around for a long time. I've been involved in multiple scenes as well, and like, there are people who are my age and they can't get over what they thought was cool when they were 18. You know what I mean? They can't get over it, and they can't see anything else being cool aside from what they liked and what was cool. But that changes all the time. Life changes so often. Everything changes. The world changes. Music changes. Art changes. Fashion. Like, all these things change. And like, you gotta like always be open to that, and always be willing to accept that, and to move with it, to be on the rhythm of art and the rhythm of the world. You know what I mean? And to not get too mired deeply.
else?
It's easier with a
My
genre obsessed with.
world,
It's
yeah,
easier with
yeah.
the genre obsessed with the past.
You
to
would think.
cling on to those past artists.
Yeah, that's true, but that happens in every genre. You know what I mean? Let me
Yes.
tell you, like, I don't know. Occasionally I go to music festivals, like the big music festivals for the modern EDM acts, right?
I used to go to one
I don't know.
a year, but they're canceled right now, obviously.
I mean, I just went to, what have I gone to recently? I went to Hijinks in Philadelphia, and then prior to that, I was down in Las Vegas for EDC. And it's just the thing that happens. I keep noticing, and I'm like, oh man, I don't know if these kids are gonna get bored of this eventually, but like, I don't think like you ever go to one of these things and like Millennium isn't headlining, like what, like or
That's the
Excision
thing I
isn't
noticed
headlining,
is-
and I'm like, I don't know, man. Like you guys should try to bring in some people that aren't like
I
Lose the
agree.
Child once in a while. Like it's great, they're consistent, but like. Maybe I mean, I don't know. People think Vaporwave is gatekeeping. I can't even imagine the level of gatekeeping in the Diplo world. You know what I mean?
So here in Detroit, we have one called Movement, or it used to be called Detroit Electronic Music Festival, or Tech
Detroit
Fest.
must have a very interesting.
So their
because you've
festival-
got such a strong association with like,
Techno.
specific types of dance music. Well,
Yeah.
specific types of techno music at that,
Chicago
right?
House. Oh
right?
wait, I'm so stupid.
That's wait.
Well, you're not wrong, because there's a lot of the techno and Detroit
A lot of like
scenes.
footwork and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
So like ghetto tech, that stuff like that.
It's so huge. Yeah, so I can even.
There's always a weird contention of like, is this festival getting too mainstream? Because like they'll have someone headline it that's like I've seen, like, you know, Deadmau5 has been there before, like as like a headliner and stuff like that. But then you're like, but I don't know, the other 50 artists are like really kind of low key, like people I know are playing this festival, and it's like that's what I always liked about it, is that it was like never necessarily about like some weird EDM networking festival. It was more like kind of your underground, more. It felt more down to earth as everybody falls asleep during this.
No. I mean, like, going on that though, you know, you gotta think like you have to have something to draw people in for all these.
Yeah,
because it's like
Something safe.
Exactly. You have to have just something that's just like the little like meat on the chain before like you get all the rest of the stuff. You know,
it was funny because the movement that was scheduled for 2020, Diamondstein was supposed to play it, which I thought was pretty nuts. Wow. And like I said, like I've seen the last one I went to was in 2019. Obviously, I've been every year since 2011, and it was like the lineup that I loved was like Disclosure, which is like my fucking favorite electronic act right now. Yeji, which is like just that perfect on the rise, but also not. Yeji's.
You saw her in the rain.
I listened to Rain Girl in the Rain. Ooh, beautiful moment. God. And then like Grizz was there, who's a Detroit act, so it wasn't like too.
Grizz is a Detroit act.
He is, yes, he is.
Grizz is a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Grizz is another artist I see at all these festivals too.
He's the guy that like
he's a lot of fun.
He labels the stuff future funk, but in more of a
really.
But he labels it kind of ignorantly, not.
Yeah.
I don't think he knows.
Young Bay toured with him and opened for him.
Yeah, I actually remember that. But I remember like I wonder if there's ever discussion of like, oh, the future funks we're labeling each other are totally different. Because Grizz is like blues funk, like saxophone.
He's like EDM based. I mean, he's part of the modern EDM sphere. You know what I mean?
Young Bay's funk is more soul
like
funk,
70s,
disco funk.
Yeah, I mean the other thing is like those EDM artists who are the, you know, like it's Grizz is also interesting because I think he's like a real DJ too. Like he can DJ real sets, and you know he doesn't just have to do the big bombastic performative, you know, audio visual presentations that the DJs do. They're not really DJing; they're hitting play and doing a beautiful audio visual presentation, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I've seen him a few times,
but I've seen him do actual DJ sets on Twitch, like where it's like house. It's just like low-key house, which is cool, man. It's cool that he does both. You know, that's very good for him. He's a very talented human being.
He's a man who does both.
He's a tremendously talented person.
His albums are, I swear, he
puts out like so many of them too. Like I don't understand.
EDM-y I'll get.
That's like, I think that's a lot of people that he's the most EDM-y they'll get. I get more EDM-y than that. Honestly, I listen to a shit ton of future bass because
I'll
I'm
listen
just
to, like-
shows.
I'm just trying to learn how to do it. You know what I mean? It's interesting to me, and it's interesting to compose those ideas into music. I really like the way they stop and start and use silence. You know, a lot of drops before, like I like
Yeah, I know
drops
what you're
that
talking about.
stop it. It's just very shocking. I like the basses. I like the
Yeah.
parallel compression to make things louder. It's interesting to me. I don't, you know, I like to listen to that stuff because I like to think of how I can incorporate that into what I do in my way and with my voice. You know what I mean? I don't want to be them. I don't want to sound like them, but I
Right.
want to learn stuff. You know what I mean?
But then you
I
can
wanna
listen
learn
to
how do
like,
stuff.
I'll do that with Disclosure, but then I'll just go, I'll never do this, and then I get sad.
Well, no, you'll do it, but you'll try and do it your own way, and then it will become something unique.
They just released a single with Zed, and I'm like,
Oh well, then.
just so
Did
good.
That's
you ask-
interesting too. The collab culture involved in that world is very interesting, right? Like
I always feel like
how's
it's not
that work?
personal at all. You know what
I
I
always
mean?
feel like it's not personal too. I also wonder if they actually like have to pay them at some point. Like if you're an up and coming modern EDM producer, like is the next phase of your career to the point where you can hire Excision to put his name on your track and just pay him like
Well, that's kind of
$500,000?
how it works in like the hip hop world, right? Where like you just
Yes.
pay for a feed, you pay 25 grand for a feature, and they never even see you.
It is impossible to find like EDM singles released anymore that is not like Seven Lions
Yep.
featuring
Wiz
Zed's
Khalifa.
Dead, featuring
Even
no,
fucking-
like just like 5 other producers featuring
Oh,
Zed's
yeah,
Dead, featuring like Wooly, featuring Matt, you know, whatever the fuck else, like
Wooly.
Eurobus, like all.
Wooly, yeah.
Yeah, that's another one.
You look
He's-
at, remember, even Young Bay put out that Bad Boy featuring Wiz Khalifa, and I'm like, I bet they never even saw each other. I bet he just got that track.
That was bonkers.
But that collab culture helps them with streams, right? Like, so
I
now
know
you
why
get
it
the
happens,
streams from,
but-
like, I mean, we know why it happens. We know why collab culture is a thing
Yeah.
in music these days.
Man, if you're not good enough to sell your own music, then get out of here.
Get out of
You
here.
gotta
man.
you gotta
Let it go
collab
behind
with Wiz
you.
Khalifa to get a couple extra plays. Fuck you. Get
Maybe-
good, scrub.
I always feel bad when there's like, I've seen indie artists have like a really solid track.
I love Young Bay. I think he's great.
I do too. I've
just gonna
known
put
I've
that
known
out
him
there.
for on a personal level.
Yeah, Dallas is great. I've known him for a long time too. Good for him. He gives people hope that if he can do it, maybe you
I
can
will.
too.
I will give him that. He's exposing more. He's exposing the mainstream.
He still
to the sounds of
associates
funk.
himself with. He still do the shows with people who like Vantage and Macross.
That's what I was gonna
and some
say.
people who are younger than that. Like he's still
Van-
like
dude,
he's hardcore
Vantage.
being like, yeah, I'm like I remember like yeah, he's good for him. Good on you. Good on you.
Dude, Vantage got huge within the last few years, especially with like 50-50
TikTok,
getting
TikTok,
huge on
TikTok.
TikTok, and Warner approached
that
him
why
to
that
do a record
happens?
deal.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much. And then
Wow.
Warner approached him with a music deal, and now he did the thing where like he remade 50-50, but he remade the sample, and you can
Whoa.
kind of
What?
tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, the version of 50-50, and he got Abso Facto to do the vocals on it. Yeah, the new version of 50-50, it is slightly different from the original. But he interpolated the original sample. That's kind of a genius.
I got to hear that. That's
Well,
Maybe you've
fascinating.
heard it
There's a
before,
group-
but you couldn't tell.
There's a group that does that like professionally, and they're listed
Yes.
as credits. I
Yes.
remember we looked into this.
Yeah, exactly.
Really
And he's collabing with Todd Edwards, dude. And dude,
good for him.
on the
That's
come
what
up. Good for
TikTok
him.
does. That's what Spotify does for you. Support
I-
Spotify.
What-
Is this bad
what was-
time?
My name's Neil
okay.
Young. I love
Wait, is it-
Spotify.
Wait, that's really funny. But not appropriate right now. So just
What
good
happened?
for
What
you,
happened to Spotify? Honestly, Spotify has really done nothing. Nothing.
All they've
to-
done is give me like a heart attack, and I'm like, oh god.
all Spotify has done has actually just been nothing. They couldn't care what anyone's doing on that platform, and they're just like,
No, they can't care what anyone's doing.
What?
They just want to see you fight for spots on the goddamn.
they just wanted someone to listen to it.
They're like, they just want to like go
I-
compete for our attention, fool. Just
Maybe-
be on our
okay.
little playlists.
Maybe it's just me, and this might be a hot take, not the right podcast for it, but hot take
That's the
here.
noise, yeah.
Spotify,
Pretty good.
y'all really need to chill out with the hate towards Spotify. Oh my God, you're not getting paid $1 million for a single play
Oh.
that people pay $10 a month to listen to, and you're only getting like a couple of thousand plays a month. Like, think about it. Like, if this was on YouTube, if you get that many plays, you get even less. If Spotify, by comparison, is pretty good. Sure, it's better to buy it on Bandcamp. That way the artist can get the whole thing. But at the same time, no one's buying music anymore. Unfortunately.
Discoverability, baby.
So, you either have to have a gimmick like DDS does with the subscription, or you just got to suck it up and take what you're getting with Spotify, because, hate to say it, there are very many other options that are going to pay you nearly as well. And because things like, as soon as you put it up, it's free money at that point,
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything.
If you can take advantage of it, I recommend it.
The thing about Spotify, like I see people bring up like the higher payouts on other platforms, and one important thing to keep in mind is that Spotify has the most users out of like any of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like you see charts, and you see Napster has the higher payout, has the highest.
So when Napster comes out, and everybody starts using Napster, at that point, they're going to have to lower that cut, because they're going to have more people, because they're going to need to have to. They're going to have to do the same thing Spotify has to do. That's not a forever solution. There's a reason why things are so low. They can't afford. How many ads do you think you have to listen to in order to afford paying more than just a couple of cents out of something?
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to actually go on with what you just said about the Spotify thing and artists complaining about not getting paid a lot. And that's true. And I respect and understand that. But let me tell you right now, most of the artists, no one would even listen to their music without Spotify. Like no one would even hear you. Like no
discoverability. That's the point.
Like
100%.
in the era where people were making gold records and platinum albums and shit like that, like you understand that there's like barely any record labels, barely any even independent. I got all my music because I subscribed to like J-Tree Records, like little catalog, and they would tell me the 5 new artists that they were gonna sign that I could listen to those albums, and I have now. There's like hundreds and hundreds of artists I discover constantly, and like every artist, like you motherfuckers, you'd have zero money. Actually,
so good.
Like
you'd have zero right now.
You'd have zero money. No one would give a fuck about your little band or your little act. You'd have 0 listens. You'd have 0 money. You have 0 exposure. No one would ever hear you. What, your local seat of Nebraska, like fucking like tiny town in Nebraska, like where everyone is just playing like covers of like Bad Company. No one would hear you. No one would care. You'd give up and you'd work an office job and die at 70 and
like,
marry someone you hated. Like you, at least someone's listening to you. Someone's listening to you now. And you know what? The artists who are trying to who really complain about not making a lot of money are probably like the really big artists. Like they're just mad that they can't make as much as they used to. And yes, do we want bigger payouts for artists? Of course. And we have an option for that. It's called Bandcamp, and you could buy it there.
Exactly.
Yeah. I would use
so
everything.
You're right. Like fuck Spotify for not paying us a lot of money. Agree, but at the same time, I'll go buy it on Bandcamp.
Exactly.
And you can listen to my music on Spotify very easily and very nicely. And from that, you can listen to all my friends and like the What's Skelly Listening To podcast, and maybe you go buy their stuff too on Spotify. And you know what I mean? Like go on Spotify, on Bandcamp. Bandcamp is like definitely giving people a way to make money. That it's just like there's so many people who would never be heard.
I always say Spotify is for showing your music to normal people.
It's very fashionable for us to hate on Spotify, and I agree. Like it would a perfect world, we'd all make more money, but the perfect world, everybody would be making more money for their jobs, and nobody's making as much as they should right now in general. I feel like
this is like okay.
Hell yeah.
We've the internet has given us something beautiful. It's given us a everybody the same platform.
Also, people just used to steal music. Also, people just use when people want a cool indie label, this went like a MediaFire link and downloaded it for free and didn't buy the album and didn't do shit. Like now, like that's like what it was like before a lot of streaming.
I mean, back in the day, I used MediaFire
blogs, and we used MediaFire link the fuck out of everything we wanted and shit we didn't know we wanted. Full discographies. We're on torrents, just torrented everything for free. Everyone took everything for free back, like right before streaming.
You know what? Let's wrap this up. We'll continue this in the after show if we want to.
Yes.
But do we have anything we want to plug? I'll go to you first, Skelly. You already brought up that you got a couple records in the works.
Yes, I do. Okay,
Anything else?
So let me recall. I have the Polymath Vampire album. It's called Make Me Feel Alive. It is pretty much done. It's going to feature Golden Living Room, Donor Lens, Winter Quilt, Tower of the Sun, and Hawaii 94, Surfing in Hawaii 94's Lee. And Also, I'm going to be participating in that Encarta stream that's coming up when in spring, I guess. And also, Terminally Chill is returning to the Barbary next Thursday. We are going to have myself and the phenomenal Faith in Glitch, who does many Vaporwave Twitch streams himself, and also
met him.
Josh, great. He runs San Junipero, which is a synthwave party in Brooklyn, and he's coming down to co-DJ this with me. And also Swims. Swims is a wonderful future funk artist on Virtua 94 Records, who's also from Philadelphia, and he'll be coming and DJing this with me. I'm very excited because both these people know how to use CDJs, so my life is going to be a lot easier when it comes to getting the sound system set up for this.
That's the best.
I always, you don't have to, but I love it when you do because it makes my life so much easier with Terminally Chill to do it. I think there's another stream I'm going to participate in that our friend Daydream Deluxe is doing for a charity, and I'm going to help out with that too. And watch Hot Takes returning after Valentine's Day. We're taking a break from now.
That's so funny. I didn't even know you guys were taking a break, and then I saw that today, and I was like, "Well, perfect. He's not busy. He can come on here for a sec for now."
Yeah.
So perfect. He's a little bonus.
Yeah, also I'm going to be remixing a Be Careful song soon as well, so stay tuned for that.
Man,
Cool.
Disco?
Thank you, Skeleton.
Thank
Oh,
you
me?
for having
Sure,
me.
I don't know.
Yeah, about a DSWK.
WDSK 97.9 FM, home of the funkiest and disco and news with your host Scooter. Tomorrow, DJ set, and then jam into audience submitted jams at WDSK 97.9 FM. Tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern on Twitch.
Twitch.tv/Discoholic.
Here, I'll type something in the chat. Just click my name.
Click that. Hell yeah. Bit new this week for Business Casual. I just had it up. Zy Cohen, Paradise Vinyl. Not a vinyl, it's a tape. But that is new this week on Business Casual. Last week we had Soulcraft Stranger, and then next week it has not been announced yet. But it is another Future Funk release from Alexis 744.
Wow. It's a gamer tag
for that. Also, New Christdown is pretty much finished. I need to finish some design work.
Who does the art?
Ordered the tapes. Second, who does the art?
Who does your art?
Who does the music?
Who does the music?
Who does the music?
Also, I have a special something coming out January 31st.
Oh my god! You're really doing a Music Here to Stay anniversary edition without telling me?
No.
Damn.
Absolutely, I would not sell that. That sounds awful.
Damn it.
But it's little Elm. Extra little something. So something new. You'll have to figure it out.
Use your brains.
As for me, it's the 1 year anniversary of Music Here to Stay tomorrow. I'm not doing anything for it, but shouts out Business.
We celebrate in our hearts.
In our hearts.
In our minds.
Listen to your heart. Yeah.
Go for the orange.
Yo. Shouts out.
Earth. On this Earth world.
I have something. I'm not sure how much has been revealed on it, so I don't know how much I can say. I haven't talked to the person, but I have something coming out early February. That's what it says on my Spotify release.
Okay.
So early February, look out for that. I have talked about this before. If you've made it this far into the episode, I've already probably said what it is. Again, I just don't know. Anyways, early February, check it out. It's a cool song. What else have I done? You can always follow me on Twitch. This link in my name. That's not me. Fuck. I forgot I'm logged into this one. What, John?
AOL Vinyl.
There you go.
AOL Vinyl.
Oh, I guess this is still available. Yeah.
I may be working on something for PhonyNet. We'll see. Something special. Something fun. Other than that, what else have I done? Anybody else want to tell me stuff I've done? That Encarta stream is
Drenched. Drenched is good.
Drenched has been out since November.
Trent
Okay.
is
Yeah,
now
good.
top of the charts, guys. Let's get to the top.
It's
Let's get number one.
Drenched
Number one, guys.
is no.
Everybody go listen to it right now.
It's on the
and
down
stream it.
low. It got
Well,
moved.
don't go right now.
And download it
Don't go right
too,
now.
and buy it, and do all the things for it.
Stream it on Napster so you make
Illegally-
more.
Stream it on Napster so he makes
I
more.
wonder if I'm on Napster. I didn't really check. I guess if I use
Get on it.
Probably
so
are.
you
You
could have been
probably
a billionaire.
I intentionally just like pick like a handful, just in case, like I'm
pick all of them.
already. Oh, I'm tap dancing on too many eggshells here.
It's
So
good.
So if you guys want to leave Spotify, that's great because I'm on all the other ones too. So you can just do me
Yeah.
there. So that's
Yeah,
I'll make
that's
more
true.
money.
You're not missing out.
Great.
yeah.
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
this
like,
is-
Spotify,
free
you
to
know,
buy,
fucking,
great.
fuck Spotify. If you fuck Spotify, you can listen to me everywhere. Honestly,
if you leave Spotify, you have to promise to listen to me somewhere else.
yeah, I'm on all the things. So fuck Spotify.
And don't
You're right.
tell
You know what?
anybody.
Fuck Spotify.
Well, let's all wave to the camera.
Oh yeah,
By wave,
good idea. Woo!
wave. Gotta get that gif.
Goodbye.